Hello, friends, it's me. Today we are going to read a story about Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, there lived a king and a queen who were very fond of roses. Every year, when the first rose of spring appeared, the queen would go out into the garden to pick it and make herself a cup of rose tea. One day, when the king and the queen were enjoying their rose tea in the garden, the queen suddenly fell down. The king was very worried and called for the royal doctor. The doctor examined the queen and said, "Your Majesty, the only way to save you now is to take a needle and prick your finger so that 3 drops of your blood fall on the ground." The king and the queen were very sad, but they knew that this was the only way to save the queen. So the king pricked her finger with a golden needle. 3 drops of blood fell onto the ground and the queen fainted. As soon as the blood touched the ground, a bush of thorns appeared and grew into a big, beautiful rose plant. After this, the king and the queen went to see the rose plant every day, but they never saw the queen again. One day, while the king was admiring the rose plant, he noticed that one of the roses had uncurled into a beautiful, delicate-looking flower. He immediately ordered his men to protect the flower and not allow anyone to touch it. Every day the king would come to see the flower and water it himself. Many years passed like this, and the flower grew bigger and more beautiful every day. Soon, the whole kingdom came to know about the flower, and people from neighboring kingdoms also came to see it. All of them wondered what kind of flower it was and how it had bloomed all of a sudden. One day, a young prince heard about the flower and decided to go see it. When he came to the garden, he saw a huge rose plant with many beautiful flowers in full bloom. But the king's guard stopped him at the entrance and wouldn't let him in. The prince waited for a while and then decided to climb over the walls of the garden. When he entered, the guards caught hold of him and brought him in front of the king. The king was very angry and asked the prince why he had climbed over the walls of his garden. The prince apologized and said that he had heard so much about the flower that he wanted to see it. The king saw that the prince was handsome and well-mannered and forgave him. Then the king took the prince to see the flower and told him the story of how it had grown overnight and how no one was allowed to touch it. The prince was very sad to hear this, but he couldn't do anything. He sat down near the flower and started to water it. The king saw that the prince was watering the flower so nicely that he allowed him to do it every day. This continued for a few days, and the prince started to feel that he had fallen in love with the flower. One day, the prince noticed that one of the flowers looked very similar to the young princess he had seen in a neighboring kingdom. He started to water this flower every day, and soon it began to grow bigger and more beautiful. After a few weeks, the flower had turned into a beautiful young princess. She was very sad to see the thorns around her and asked the prince to help her get out of there. The prince was very happy and ordered his men to dig out the thorns. As soon as the thorns were removed, the rose bush disappeared and the princess was free. The princess and the prince fell in love and soon got married. They ruled the kingdom together and lived happily ever after. The king was very happy to see his daughter-in-law and asked her to pick any rose she liked from the rose plant. The princess went to the plant and picked the most beautiful rose she could find, and when she smelled it, she fell fast asleep. The prince and the king were very worried and took her to the royal doctor. The doctor said that the only way to wake her up was to give her a kiss of true love. The prince leaned forward and kissed her. But when she didn't wake up, the king did it. But nothing happened. The doctor said that only someone who has yet reached the age of 80 can wake the princess up. They were very upset, but what could they do? After a while, the king's youngest son came to see them. He was only 16 years old. The doctor explained everything to him and asked him to kiss the princess. The young prince agreed without wasting any time. As soon as he kissed her, the princess opened her eyes. All of them were very happy. But the princess had no idea why she was sleeping or who the young prince was. The king and the queen were very worried, so they called the royal doctor again. The doctor said that she would regain her memory if she smelled the rose that had put her to sleep. The princess smelled the rose and suddenly everything came back to her. She remembered her life in the neighboring kingdom, how she had fallen in love with the prince, and how she had been cursed by an evil witch. She also remembered how her only option to break the curse was to get married to a prince who had reached the age of 80. So the princess and the prince from the neighboring kingdom got married. And after this, The evil witch's curse broke and the princess was finally free. They all lived happily ever after. The end. Now, friends, comment below and tell me what lesson did you learn from this story. I'll meet you next time with another wonderful story. Till then, bye-bye!